America first. America first.
America first.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. I'm Dana Perino, filling in tonight for Tucker. There's new developments tonight in the attempted assassination of Republican lawmakers during a baseball practice Wednesday night. Federal law enforcement officials have confirmed to Fox that shooter James Hodgkinson carried a list of Republican lawmakers' names during the shooting. Meanwhile, the shooting has provoked violent rhetoric from some on the American left. After the shooting, Jim Devine, a Democratic strategist in New Jersey, tweeted the following: "We are in a war with selfish, foolish, and narcissistic rich people. Why is it a shock when things turn violent? Hashtag hunt Republican congressman." Even after drawing criticism, Devine refused to apologize, tweeting, "I am sorry if my hunt Republican congressman hashtag hurt the feelings of any GOP snowflakes, but you have not engaged in civil discourse." For more on these ongoing developments, we're joined by Fox Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine, what have you learned?
Well, thank you, Dana. Federal law enforcement officials tell Fox News tonight that the suspect, 66-year-old James Hodgkinson, had a list of names, and we have confirmed at least 6 names were on the list, and based on our reporting, the lawmakers are all associated with the conservative House Freedom Caucus. The handwritten list also included the congressional office room numbers on Capitol Hill. Investigators are trying to determine whether Hodgkinson was trying to visit the offices in person or interact with the congressman. The list includes Scott Desjardins of Tennessee, Trent Franks of Arizona, Jeff Duncan of South Carolina, Jim Jordan of Ohio, Mo Brooks of Alabama, and Morgan Griffith of Virginia. Fox News understands that the Capitol Hill police had reached out independently to all of the offices on the list. Tonight, the offices are not commenting for our reporting. Meantime, the FBI remains on the scene in Alexandria, Virginia, where agents are mapping out the ballistics and the trajectory of the bullets. A complete analysis will help investigators to determine the number of shots fired and the direction from which they originated. Law enforcement officials are cautioning Fox tonight against drawing conclusions about the list and the suspect's motivations for having it until more information is available. Dana.
All right, Catherine, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We just told you about Jim Devine. He's a Democratic strategist in New Jersey who tweeted with hunt Republicans and hunt Republican congressman hashtags. Are these violent words and deeds on the left getting the attention they deserve? We're joined now by John Daniel Davidson. He's a senior correspondent for The Federalist. Thank you so much for being here. Earlier today, you wrote a piece in which one of the things you start off by saying is that left-wing student activism is beginning to creep off campus and into mainstream life. What has been that trajectory, and where do you think it's going?
Well, I think that we've seen a gradual escalation in left-wing rhetoric, but also left-wing violence, right? It starts on campus, and most things that start on campus end up in, mainstream public life. And for anybody who cares to do the research, going back over the past year and a half, there are dozens of incidences of political violence specifically against Trump supporters and Republicans by progressive Democratic activists. So, political violence at some level is something that some on the left are comfortable with. And sometimes you find a guy who's willing to go way, way too far, and that's what we had this week.
The violence really has been shocking, and I think we have the video of one of the tapes that makes me crack my head in the face with a lock.
Yeah, this sort of thing is, we saw it through the campaign, and to be fair, we saw it on both sides, okay? You had Trump supporters sucker punching protesters at Trump rallies, and it's ugly, and it should be condemned no matter who's doing it. But let's be honest, the mainstream media treats political violence differently when it comes from the right than when it comes from the left. And I think that you see that even now in the news coverage, 48 hours after this shooting, we've moved on. The national news cycle has moved on, and the top story is Mike Pence got a lawyer. Give me a break.
Well, the other thing that we just heard from Catherine Herridge is the reporting tonight that we know that Hodgkinson was carrying around a list. So the targeting was obviously, it wasn't just Republicans in general. I mean, it was absolutely, talk about hunting congressmen. He actually had a list, and that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and these stories don't get the attention that they should. A lot of people don't remember the name Floyd Lee Corkins. He was the guy that stormed into the Family Research Council in 2012
yes, in
with a
Colorado
9mm. That's right. And he was intent on shooting as many people there as he could. And heroic security guards stopped him, was wounded in the process. But this guy confessed that he got the idea. He was inspired by the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map. The Southern Poverty Law Center is considered by the mainstream media and people in D.C. as a respectable organization that still has its hate map up today. You can pull it up online. So when we talk about political violence inspiring or political rhetoric inspiring violence, we don't see the same kind of coverage when it comes from the left as when it comes from the right.
Last night on The Five, Greg Detfeld walked through a list of several of the incidences that, as you write about also in your article today. And I wonder if you get the sense in any of your research that the left is actually taking pause a little bit and saying, wait, okay, maybe we do actually have some responsibility here, and it's not just the right. I mean, I'm not sure if we're actually seeing that. I mean, there's been some loose talk about that this week, but it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere.
I think the left is eager not to talk about this and to move on to the Trump investigation, to move on to other things. But we really do need to talk about this, and we need to have a national conversation that tries to bring the temperature down. And the reason I think the mainstream media and a lot of people on the left, especially Democratic leadership, doesn't want to talk about it is because they know that the violent rhetoric and the actual violence is, for the most part, right now, coming from the left.
And it's not fun and games anymore. Somebody actually got hurt. Several people got hurt. We have one of the victims is still in serious condition, and Scalise, the congressman who was injured, is in critical condition still. John, thank you for your reporting. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now on to an update about House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. We were just talking about him. Today, his wife, Jennifer, released a statement which was read by Scalise's chief of staff.
On behalf of Steve and our children, I want to thank everyone from the bottom of our hearts for the incredible amount of prayers and warm wishes that we've received since Wednesday's events. We are especially appreciative of the strong outpouring of love and support from our neighbors, friends from across Louisiana and across the country, as well as President Trump, Vice President Pence, and all of Steve's colleagues who have reached out during this challenging time.
Also today, a doctor at MedStar Washington Hospital Center spoke about Scalise's condition, revealing how close he came to dying in Wednesday's attack.
Congressman Scalise sustained a single rifle wound that entered in the area of the left hip. It traveled directly across towards the other hip in what we call a transpelvic gunshot wound. The round fragmented and did substantial damage to bones, internal organs, and blood vessels. I understand he was awake on scene, but by the time he was transported by helicopter to the MedStar Trauma Center, he was in shock. In the operating room, he was in critical condition and received many units of transfused blood for ongoing hemorrhage from multiple locations. He received truly amazing anesthesia care from Dr. Eric Skolnick and Dr. Scott Frank. Due to their great work, we were able to get him through that procedure, and we then took him to the radiology suite, where he underwent an additional procedure by Dr. Arshad Khan to further control bleeding. From there, we went to the intensive care unit, where he got additional care under the direction of Dr. Chadi Abouasali, and he remains in the ICU today. Yesterday, Dr. Trankium and I did an additional operation, and Dr. Robert Golden, our Director of Orthopedic Trauma, did an operation to repair a broken bone in his leg. The Congressman's status remains critical. We are encouraged by improvement in his condition over the last 36 hours. We have controlled the internal bleeding, and his vital signs have stabilized. He will require additional operations to manage abdominal injuries and other bone injuries. Predicting the length of his hospital stay is difficult today. Presumably it will be easier in some days when more time has passed and we have more information. After he leaves the hospital, he will require a period of healing and of rehabilitation. On behalf of the MedStar Trauma Team, I want to thank the special agents on the scene as well as the first responders for everything that they did for those shooting victims. We are all well aware here at the MedStar Washington Hospital Center of all that those folks did to save these people.
Congressman Scalise was visited at the hospital today by a good friend of his, Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. So the media have been targeting Republicans, and on Monday, HuffPost had to delete an entire article after they fell for a bogus anti-Trump memo. The fake memo claimed Donald Trump's presidential campaign paid thousands of dollars to boost itself on the popular website Reddit. Then on Thursday, the New York Times tried to blame Sarah Palin for the 2011 shooting of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, even though that connection had been debunked years ago. Joe Concha writes about media for the